My name is Chrisanne Zepp, and I'm a mother, wife, professional, and volunteer leader in my community. I was a cyclist, a runner, a kayaker, and an extremely active woman with no pre-existing health issues. On October 16, 2012, I woke up, ran 3.5 miles, showered, dressed, and drove to work. I was on the phone waiting to go into a meeting when I realized that my arms and my hands were numb and that it felt like an elephant had landed on my chest. Although it didn't make sense, the symptoms were far too classic for me to ignore the fact that I was having a heart attack. A friend of mine pulled in at that moment, and I asked her if she would drive me to the hospital because I was having a heart attack. What happened next is something that I hope no other woman presenting at the ER with chest pains will have to endure. I walked up to the registration desk and presented my driver's license and insurance card. I said, "My name is Chrisanne Zepp. I'm 45 years old. I'm having a heart attack and I need immediate medical care." The staff just stared at me. I was completely dismissed for 20 minutes, despite the fact that my friend and I were begging for medical attention. When I was finally wheeled into the triage room, the nurse took one look at me and informed me that I was not having the big one. She could tell from across the room. I was moved into the ER and was dismissed by the EKG tech, nurses, and doctors until my blood work came back showing that I had elevated levels of troponins. It was more than an hour before I was administered aspirin and nitroglycerin. I was transferred from that point to another hospital and immediately went in to have an angiogram. I was misdiagnosed with Takotsubo syndrome and sent home the next day being told to reduce my stress but otherwise return to life as normal. My chest pains continued and healthcare providers were puzzled. My cardiologist recommended I be seen by a specialist at a world-renowned teaching hospital, and even that doctor dismissed the numbness in my hands and feet as carpal tunnel and tried to convince me that my chest pains were no longer cardiac related, perhaps reflux? On November 19th, I received a call from that same cardiologist informing me that a review of my angiogram showed that I had had a spontaneous coronary artery dissection, a SCAD. I was to be admitted immediately for a second angiogram and stents. Thanks to my prior good health, I did not need to be stented because my tear was all but 30% repaired, but the nightmare of my treatment continued. Because SCADs are often missed, many healthcare providers know little or nothing about them. There is no known cause for SCADs, and SCAD survivors are not the typical cardiac disease patients. Therefore, typical cardiac management does not work for us. For example, SCAD survivors can have coronary vasospasms for up to a year after their SCAD. We can't go to the ER every time we have chest pains, or we may as well take up residency there. I urge you to suggest healthcare providers adjust their treatment plans for patients with atypical diagnoses. Since SCADs occur mostly in young females, we're at risk for being dismissed when we present with chest pains. This prejudice has got to stop so we can survive. I've enrolled in 2 SCAD research projects at the Mayo Clinic in the hopes of helping SCAD survivors and one day preventing SCADs. I attribute the SCAD Survivor Social Network group, started by 2 SCAD survivors and endorsed by Mayo Clinic's Dr. Hayes, for helping me regain my quality of life. My name is Chrisanne Zepp, and I'm a SCAD survivor.